Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be hosting once again an episode of Groundwork TV, and we've got a wonderful conversation ahead of us today. I'm Joe, the founder of Groundwork Project, and I'm here with Jonathan and Gordon from the STEPS Coalition in Gulfport, Mississippi. I asked them to join me today because they've done a lot of work to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And Jonathan, I want to pass it to you first, but I want to do so by starting by taking a step back to talk about the origin of the STEPS Coalition and giving folks some background as to how you guys actually came together. So hoping to start, just if you don't mind introducing yourself, telling us who you are, a little bit about what brought you to STEPS and how STEPS itself came to be.
Sure. So my name is Jonathan Green. I'm the executive director of the STEPS Coalition. How I came to STEPS, I have been really a fan of doing some types of community economic development work for pretty much most of my career. But I spent the first 25 years of my career working in corporate finance. And toward the end of that time, just found it wasn't fulfilling. So I decided to transition over to the nonprofit sector. And it just so happened that I had colleagues from college that were in, and here I am today. It was supposed to be a consulting gig for a few weeks, and it's turned into career number two. In terms of STEPS Coalition, STEPS is a child of Katrina. So STEPS was actually born in September of 2006 following Katrina. It was formed by over 40 community members and NGOs. And the goal at that time was to provide a voice to frontline communities, primarily Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities that didn't have a voice in the recovery process.
Gordon, I want to hand it over to you to kind of start and do the same thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your origins with STEPS, and how that ties in the conversation about Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, well, glad to do that. I actually came to Mississippi in 2013. I wasn't here. I was in Dallas, Texas, and I was proudly working with the Black press, a couple of the Black newspapers in the area. But my father, after retiring at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi after serving 31 years in the Air Force, he and my mother started aging, and I was one of the brothers and sisters who just they decided to stay in Biloxi, and I was one of the few siblings that came over and ended up being one of their primary caretakers. That's what brought me to Biloxi in 2013. So I said, well, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to get involved in the community. The first organization I got involved with was the Biloxi branch of the NAACP, working very closely with the president, James Crowell, serving several committees and things of that nature. And historically, the Biloxi branch of the NAACP was working very closely, had been working very closely from the beginning with STEPS Coalition. Several of our representatives on the branch was board members of STEPS, and so we had that crisscross support. Well, when Jonathan came in, he came in through the previous executive director after the founding executive director, Roberta, retired. And the previous executive director, with that close connection between the NAACP and STEPS Coalition, asked me to come on the board of STEPS, in which I was proud to do and things. After that, previous executive director unfortunately had to step down. Jonathan came in and to be first the interim executive director, then the permanent executive director. I was very busy with the board to the point to where for about 3 years I was president of the board of directors, working very, very closely with Jonathan and all the projects that he was fostering and developing. And then about 2.5 years ago, he made a very honorable gesture to me and said he would like for me to come on staff. And so for that, I had to step down from the board, in which I did back in May of 2023. So for about the past 2.5 years now, I've been on staff, working even more closely with Jonathan along with the rest of our staff with these projects. And so I've been in line with what Jonathan has seen, particularly how Biloxi and particularly East Biloxi was ravaged by Hurricane Katrina. and how there are still today about 55 to 60 empty lots, undeveloped lots in East Biloxi that has not been planned for any type of redevelopment. I witnessed not only the diversion of funds that was supposed to be used in housing, but also just a pure total disinvestment, specifically of East Biloxi, over about the past 30 years and things like that. And you see signs of that and things. But we've been able to help maybe bring in a ray of hope for East Biloxi and other parts of Biloxi. We've been working with an organization called the East Biloxi Community Collaborative, EBCC, that is headed by Alitra Perryman, who is now also the deputy director of the state NACP and things. And we helped her with her community needs assessment. Got the five most prominent needs in the community, which included a need for a grocery store, a need for affordable housing, need for a comprehensive health system and things. And so we've all been working together on that, and through the leadership of Jonathan, we've been able to foster some really good programs. Like when we both the NACP and STEPS put the money together to commission the artists that drew the mural on the Division of Main Street. A very colorful mural that profiled Miss Inez, the former owner of the building, and then a scene from the wait-in protest that helped us integrate the beaches and things and all that. And then other projects like putting a rain garden in at New Bethel. And then that led by NIFWIF, and then that led to a bigger NIFWIF grant, to where right now we're in process of a bayou restoration project, where we're creating restoration ideas for the two bayous that are in East Biloxi. And the housing program, as Jonathan touched on, that we're trying to foster on Holly Street and things of that nature. So just in short, one of the things that did come out that we felt that we needed to rectify was when people talk about Hurricane Katrina coming up to 20 years ago, much of the conversation was focused on New Orleans, and which was valid because a lot happened in New Orleans. Well, what a lot of people don't know, and that we've been trying to get the word out, is that the Mississippi Gulf Coast was hit even harder, hit even worse. And we've been trying to get that word out to people so that the attention also is balanced toward Mississippi Gulf Coast. And that included East Biloxi, which had up to, I think, close to 25 water surge, because they caught both ends of the storm, from the Gulf Coast from the south and from the Back Bay to the north. And so they got the double whammy and things of that nature. And so we continue to try to work on revitalization projects and programs, and that would work toward trying to bring some hope and life back into East Biloxi, along with other projects that we have.
Gordon, thank you. I think that teases up really nicely to talk about the vision for Katrina 20. And so, Jonathan, tell us a little bit about what Katrina 20 is and what kind of the goals behind it are, what you hope to achieve.
Sure. So first I have to say, can't take total credit for Katrina 20. It was actually the brainchild of Colette Pichon Battle, who's executive director of Taproot Earth, which is one of our climate justice allies. So Katrina 20 was meant to be a multi-state initiative. So Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So we started planning for Katrina 20 back in, I'm going to say, July, August of 2024. So it's been almost an 18-month initiative, basically to do several things. So for the state of Mississippi, we called it Katrina 20 Mississippi. And our major themes were remembrance, restoration, and resilience. And we kind of added for the last resilience, resistance as well, to acknowledge the political moment that we're in nationally. But the whole goal is really to build community power across a region that we know is going to be susceptible to the impacts of climate change, tropical storms, hurricanes, sea level rise. And how do we acknowledge impacts like Katrina, which had a devastating effect on this area, as Gordon alluded to? But more importantly, how do we start to build resilience within the community? How do we have community-led initiatives around building resiliently, but also having community power so that we have rapid response resources, that we are prepared for disasters, and the whole notion that this is work that we really need to do at the community level, because as we found with Katrina, nobody's going to come to rescue us. During Katrina, the towns on the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, in Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, many of them did not see FEMA response for 4 to 6 weeks. People were left homeless. They were left in shelters. So this initiative of Katrina 20 is about making sure that never happens to our communities again. And so in the case of Mississippi, we had 3 core components to our program. We had a sunrise service, which was about remembrance. It was an opportunity for our community leaders and faith leaders to talk about the Katrina experience, both the good and the bad being that poor response that we got from our government leaders, the good being how the community pulled together to help one another. So that was actually a 2-hour program followed by a community breakfast. Then midday from 9 to noon, we hosted our first People's Movement Assembly. So the whole idea there was to have a bottoms-up conversation about what did you experience in Katrina, what is your life like now post-Katrina, and what is your vision for the future? So we were really blessed to have about 30 people participate in that conversation so that we could document those thoughts. And the go forward plan is to hopefully meet with the community every quarter to start building this base that I've talked about. How do we build resilient housing? How do we make sure that we have a school system that's meeting the needs of our kids? How do we have strong food justice programs that address the fact that many of these communities are food deserts? How do we engage with the municipality to make sure that our transportation infrastructure makes sense? Many middle and low income folks on the coast don't own vehicles. And so they have difficulty getting to resources here on the coast. And obviously, if there's a storm, they have difficulty evacuating. So how do we protect our citizens and make sure that they're safe? And then the third part of the program on the 29th was just to recognize the fact that culturally, our artists, whether they be visual artists or performing artists, are a major part of movement building. They are kind of the salve on the wounds that remind us that to be healthy and whole, both physically and psychologically, we can't just be working all the time. So we had a really strong cultural program that featured a gospel choir, featured an R&B band. It featured spoken word artists, and also featured an all-female dance troupe that was just absolutely amazing. So we had a full day from 6 a.m. Until about 4 p.m. And the really amazing thing, we were concerned when we started because it was pouring down rain. We were in an outdoor venue, and we had well over 100 people attend our sunrise service in the dark to watch the sun come up over the Gulf of Mexico. So it was really pretty special. And more importantly, Gordon has talked about East Biloxi, but our footprint is really the 6 coastal counties. So it was very important for us to address the needs and concerns of residents of all of those counties. So Hancock, Harrison, Jackson, George, Stone, and Pearl River. So all were welcome for this initiative. And we held it at Gulfside Assembly, which is a historic African-American retreat center that was founded by an African-American minister within the United Methodist Church in the early 1900s during segregation. And that particular retreat center was totally wiped out by Katrina. So we chose that site because it really is a sacred site in the context of Katrina. It's a sacred site in the context of the Christian church. But more importantly, we wanted this event to be a catalyst to bring attention to that particular facility, which we hope to redevelop in the coming years. So they lost they had a conference center, they had senior housing, and they had a hotel. And it was a center that was used by African Americans and people of color all across the Gulf Coast for years and years. So we want to make sure that that tradition is preserved.
John, I mean, what an extraordinary vision, execution, celebration, remembrance. I mean, incredibly powerful what you were able to pull together, and the power of creating that space to bring community together and execute on that vision. And Gordon, I want to turn this back over to you here, because talk to us a little bit about how events like Katrina 20 are able to bring people together, and how it helps build community and help push the broader vision of the STEPS Coalition and push your work forward.
Well, we were proud of having that event at Gulfside Assembly, because a lot of people, just like a lot of people didn't know that Hurricane Katrina damaged the Mississippi Gulf Coast even worse than New Orleans, a lot of people didn't know about Gulfside Assembly. And so we were able to give that organization and that land much exposure throughout all of the other counties in the region, and throughout people from New Orleans and Alabama. And we hope that that is the partnership that's going to help give them the exposure and attention to what they can truly now go ahead and rebuild, and hopefully get the funds to rebuild, because that is much needed in Gulfside Assembly, and specifically within the sunrise service of that event. It was also, it lived true to the concept of being an interfaith sunrise service, because we had comments from people from at least 7 different religious groups. So we had somebody representing the Buddhist community, we had somebody representing the Muslim community, and representing, like I said, about at least 7 groups. So we really were successful in putting that interfaith flavor, so to speak, into that meeting, into that service and things. And so I think we really promoted ourselves as an organization that does bring in people from all faiths, from all walks, lives, from all different types of communities, from all groups, together for the common cause of moving the community forward. And we and with the entertainment was also very diverse. We even tried. We were somewhat successful with the food. So we wanted to have kind of like an international food festival. So we did bring in some food trucks that served both American food, Asian food, and also a little Caribbean food. So we were trying. We were able to do a little bit of serving diverse cuisines as well. So that's the kind of like the concept that we were trying to drive home to the people. I think we were successful in getting that message out, and I'm looking forward to see how we can follow up on that.
Thank you for that. And I mean, again, what a spectacular and extraordinary thing you guys did. Jonathan, talk to me briefly here a little bit about how core to a lot of the work that STEPS Coalition does is that organizing and connecting with communities across the Gulf Coast, right across the areas that you serve, and then mobilizing them to address issues that affect those communities. Tell us about how that kind of mobilize or motivates you all on a daily basis, and kind of what that looks like. One thing when you're obviously building towards a big event like Katrina 20, but there's challenges across these communities every day. So how do you kind of keep that momentum going forward?
Yeah, ironically, a lot of it is stepping out on faith. But I think one thing that people were surprised to hear actually during the commemoration was that there's only 3 people on staff at STEPS Coalition. So we work by collaboration. We kind of recognize that A, we can't do it ourselves, but also B, that we should not be doing it ourselves. So we pretty much with everything we do, we partner with like-minded allies that have a similar vision for where we want to go, but also have different core competencies. So just as an example, we work regularly with the NAACP because organizing in the political sphere is their expertise. They're a C4, so they can do it certainly more effectively, quite frankly, more legally than we can as a C3. This time was the first time we actually worked with the U.S. Climate Action Network. So as a result of connections that we've made over the last couple of years with US CAN, we brought in our partner, Shantae Cannon-Buckley from US CAN, to really bring expertise in the climate space and climate advocacy to talk about why climate change is important to frontline communities. So one of the things that we've noticed since I've been here is low to moderate income communities are not talking about climate change, even though they're directly in the path of sea level rise and tropical storms here on the coast. And we're trying to start that conversation because we don't want people to get caught back on their heels again. We don't want people to get caught not being able to evacuate or get caught not having access to emergency services like happened the last time. And then again, how do we leverage the Gulf Side Assembly, which actually is owned by the United Methodist Council here in the southeast of the United States, and has a very broad population. So working with faith-based organizations is really important because more than any other type of nonprofit or NGO, they have a large constituent base. So if we're talking about every church, on average, has 100 or more people, and there are a lot of churches on the coast. There's mosques, there's temples, there's synagogues, there's Catholic churches. So it's one of the most powerful ways to reach a community at the grassroots level, and we try to make sure that we stay connected with those folks. And then the other thing, we've been fortunate to develop really strong relationships with organizations like the Mississippi State University Extension Program. So one of our major partners for this initiative was the Gulf Coast Community Design Studio, which is a subsidiary of that. And they actually put together on large 4x8 billboards a timeline of Hurricane Katrina. It laid out the migration patterns of people who out-migrated from the coast following Katrina. So it really gave us a visual history in addition to kind of the conversation that we were having, so people could see, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I was here when that happened. And the goal ultimately is to have a documentary. So we had a videographer on site that's going to be pulling together a documentary and doing interviews with people who have lived experience from Katrina. But at the end of the day, for us, it's really about partnering. And the whole idea of the People's Movement Assembly this time was to get us out of our NGO silos and actually get men and women and youth to tell us what Katrina meant to them, but more importantly, what a resilient future looks like to them. So I hope I answered your question.
You absolutely did. I mean, listen, it's been a spectacular conversation, and what you've explained about the origin of the STEPS Coalition, and in the midst of one of the most or the greatest disasters, natural disasters over the course of the past 50 years, and the devastation that it brought, and well known, as you both said, about what happened in New Orleans, and on the one hand, justifiably so, but left untold throughout much of that in that aftermath has been what happened to other parts of the Gulf Coast, and the fact that what we've seen is a community come together, create a coalition of over 40 different organizations, and now 20 years on, continue to advocate for those communities to make sure that their needs are met and that their advocate voices are heard and that their advocacy is seen. I mean, what you guys have done is, and what you are doing every day, it's extraordinary. So, so grateful to you guys for making the time. Thank you. We're honored to be able to support you through the organize a network and through a mini grant program as well for the celebration of Katrina 20. I know we're at time, but I just wanted to leave you both a last quick minute here for anything else you wanted to add, or you wanted to make sure that our followers and viewers here know about the work that you're doing and what lies ahead.
Sure. I'll just say quickly, we work really hard, and we're really hard on ourselves when we do this stuff. When we were planning this, everybody was pretty stressed out, and we had our noses to the grindstone. I just want to thank the community for coming out. We got a lot of feedback from the community members that this was a conversation that was needed. And that's the kind of feedback that we need to continue making sure that we're focusing in the right place and engaging with the right people for the right causes. So I'll just say we're going to continue this work. We want to thank the Groundwork Project for your support and allyship. It's been really transformative for us. So we just want to make sure you guys know that. And also just want to take a minute to thank, our allies, because this is a challenging moment for us in our democracy in the United States. So we are really pleased that so many of our allies have stood by us through this time as we continue to do this work. So thanks, Joe. We really appreciate you. We appreciate the Groundwork Project. And we look forward to continued collaboration.
And Gordon, any last words that you want to make sure people hold on to as?
Yeah, following up with what Jonathan said, we're going to continue to do more. Like I said, like Jonathan kind of corrected me earlier, that a lot of our work is in East Biloxi, but we are looking to make impact in all of the 6 lower counties of South Mississippi and even beyond later on. We just want to grow stronger. We want to build more partnerships. And I see an opportunity to build partnerships with some of the other organizations under the Groundwork Project as well. So I'd like to look into that and see if anything could happen with that. And I want to thank you, Joe, as a person, a high profile person under a high profile name, and you could be doing a lot of other things. You could be in, corporate America, trying to become a billionaire. I mean, you could be doing a lot of other things, and you have chosen to drive your energy into really helping grassroots community organizations and empower grassroots community organizations. And I just want to say I admire you for that, and thank you. And that I'm looking forward to further working with you and Groundwork and other organizations on really starting to make even more impact in our communities.
Well, Gordon, if somebody gives me $1 billion, I'll make sure you guys get a big chunk of it. How about
Okay, give me a piece of it. I'll take part of it.
Thank you guys so much. Grateful to you, and keep up the amazing work.